the Raiders defense could actually be good this year.
Raiders defense is different this year.
Then again, we say that almost every year, but according to many reports coming out of training camp, the Raiders defense has been dominating for the past couple of days. My only thing is, I don't know whether that means our defense is good or our offense is just that bad. Nonetheless, we'll talk about all of that in today's video. But first, if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, then hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon button to notify you guys when I upload more videos just like this. With that being said, cue the intro.
And you tell them one thing. Just win, baby.
It's because you're not feeling Uzi.
Now, we do have a lot of things to talk about with training camp, but before we get into any of that, I got some updates on the Josh Jacobs situation, and it's kind of crazy to talk about this, but like I told you guys before, if anything does come out about Josh Jacobs, I'm going to talk about it. And just today, according to JPA, I just seen them tweet this out, saying that there's reports that the Chiefs and Broncos are among the teams interested in Raiders running back Josh Jacobs if the team rescinds his franchise tag, per Pro Football Talk, both division rivals of the Raiders. Now, if this is actually true, then this is bad news for the Raiders organization, especially if you lose your #1 running back who balled out last season to a division rival. And for all the confused fans out there, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of fans on Twitter saying, why would the Raiders even want to trade Josh Jacobs to a division rival? Well, this report doesn't say anything about trading. This situation specifically talks about if the Raiders were to rescind that franchise tag, take that franchise tag away from Josh Jacobs, because they could do that at any time, then Josh Jacobs ends up becoming a free agent and he could sign with any team out there. At that point, I don't believe that he'll get anywhere near that 10.1 mil, but I could see him taking less to sign somewhere where he plays with a chip on his shoulder, especially against the Raiders. And if that's the case, that's bad news for our team. But do I actually think that this is true? Do I think that the Broncos and Chiefs are actually open to bringing in Josh Jacobs? No, I don't think so. I know that the running back room over there for the Chiefs could use a running back like Josh Jacobs, but I don't think that they would need Josh Jacobs. And as far as the Denver Broncos, they still got their #1 running back, Javonte Williams. I know he's coming off of an injury. Maybe that could be a reason why they would want to get Josh Jacobs, but still, they got a young running back that is coming back and that's going to be taking the boatload of carries. They brought on some Samaje Perine to that squad as well. So I don't think that this is true at all. Mike Florio is just throwing shit out there. I believe so. But I thought I'd just talk about it just a little bit because news came out today, and I know a lot of Raider fans are probably wondering what's going to happen if the Raiders actually were to let him go to free agency, which I don't think the Raiders will do. I mean, they can, but I think it's a stupid move if they were to do that, because right now I feel like Josh Jacobs will actually bite and sign that tag. I've been saying it over and over and over again, but when that day does actually happen, then I could finally relax and break the news to you guys, and we could move on with our day. With that said, hypothetically, do you guys think that the Raiders will take that franchise tag away from him? And do you think that he would end up signing with the Broncos or the Chiefs if he was out there in the open market? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now let's talk some training camp. Man, oh man, oh man, there has been a lot of news going around, man. Shout out to all the beat writers that are actually there at training camp every single day. I know that this past week was the very first week that they start putting the pads on, and we got to see a little bit more from these players, at least got to hear a lot more from these players. And there's been some good, some bad, and some ugly, definitely some ugly. But let's start off with our quarterback, Jimmy G. You guys know how I feel about Jimmy G. From what I seen from him in training camp, at least the days I went, before they put the pads on, he did look good out there. But then I told you guys, let's take it with a grain of salt because we don't know how he's actually going to look when there's pressure. But according to a lot of reports out there, it seems like our quarterback, Jimmy G, has been struggling this past week in training camp, throwing many interceptions, man. I seen a tweet today from Vic Tafer tweeting out that Garoppolo, who has had an up and down camp, having an up and down Saturday. Also adding to that saying, don't sound the alarms, but go ahead and locate them. Jimmy 1 for 7 with 3 drop picks and scrimmages to close out practice. Now, of course, that's definitely not what we want to hear coming out of training camp, especially because we invested in this guy and we sent off another guy to go play for the New Orleans Saints. And I know that there's a lot of Raider fans out there that are really questionable about Jimmy G. A lot of them saying, he's gonna stink the joint up. And so far in training camp, there's no way around it, man. He's not been looking good, at least from all these reports. Adding on to that, Vinny B tweeted, "Another shaky day for Jimmy G at Raiders camp. Feels like he's been thinking too much, holding onto the ball too long, and then making unsure throws." Now, who does that sound like to you guys? Sounds like the last quarterback that we had, and that's definitely not what we need here in training camp. And like I said, even though I am supporting Jimmy G, he's got to step up his game. I know it's just training camp, but hopefully he cleans that stuff up before we head into week 1 preseason next week against his former team, the San Francisco 49ers. And if there's any time to make any mistakes, I guess it's in training camp, right? If he actually does go out there and balls out when the games actually matter, then we don't have to worry about this too much. But according to my oos Tashawn Reed, I guess timing has been the biggest issue. Tweeting out, "Garoppolo's never been one to really have a bunch of turnovers. Just watching practice, seems like his timing is the biggest issue right now." And I guess if you take that and look back at the first day of training camp, Devontae kind of alluded to this a little bit, saying that Jimmy G's always open to soaking in a lot of information. And the main thing that he talked to him about was the placing of the ball. So, with the placing of the ball and the timing issues, I hope he gets that situated before week 1. Like I said before, I'm still going to support Jimmy G. He's going to be our quarterback going into this season. I hope he could clean up these issues moving forward, because unfortunately, if he doesn't throughout the season, then we might be seeing a new quarterback starting, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or probably even Brian Hoyer. So we'll see how these preseasons look, because I know that they're going to get a lot of PT out there. Now, one unit that I do want to talk about the most is the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's the reason why you guys clicked this video today. There's been a lot of praise going around from all the beat writers, from the coaching staff, from people outside the organization, even the players inside the organization. It seems like the defense is starting to click right now. And I do believe it, because I think this defense is actually going to take another step than they did last year. I mean, just the only way we could go is up, right? I've stated this many times before, that last season the defense wasn't bad. We were still in positions to win games, and to see that this defense is only going to take that next step, especially because we don't even have Tyree Wilson out there right now. We don't even have Byron Young out there. So to see the defense already kind of gelling, kind of clicking out there, really gets me excited. Then again, like I alluded to before, who knows if that's just the offense being bad or the defense being good, but to hear that the defense is actually killing it out there is definitely good news to hear. According to Q, it seems like it was another day for the defense, a bunch of pass breakups and interceptions. Tashawn Reed also added to that, saying that the Raiders defense is showing out again today. Now, one of his followers actually replied to that, saying, "I can't tell if this is tongue-in-cheek or not. LOL." Then Tashawn Reed added, replying, saying that it's serious. Pass rush has been active in registering would-be sacks. Linebackers are covering well. Defensive backs making a ton of plays on the ball. They've picked off Garoppolo 7 times in the last 2 days and have had multiple interceptions against the backups as well. And to add to that, if the defensive line continues to cause pressure like this during real games, then our secondary definitely will have a lot of opportunities to make plays, and that's what I'm hoping for this season. We only had, I think, a couple of interceptions last year, coming in last. I think adding Marcus Peters out there, having other guys like Marcus Epps, guys like Isaiah Pull-Em-Out who's stepping up, Jacorian Bennett who's stepping up as well. I'm gonna talk about those guys in just a little bit. I think that this defense is going to be much better. I think we're going to see a lot more turnovers this upcoming season, and with Tyree Wilson soon to be joining the defensive line, I think the sky's the limit for this defense right now. And speaking of Isaiah, he's one guy I'm going to be rooting for, of course, because he's Pauly, got to do it for the culture, but as well as, just being my cousin out there, you know what I mean? But he's one guy that's been getting a lot of praise in training camp, and I told you guys, he actually looks good out there. When I seen him at training camp, he added some more weight onto him, and I think he's going to be a guy that could possibly break out like what Talanoa Hufanga did just last year for the San Francisco 49ers. I think he could do over here for the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a guy that could definitely make a lot of plays out there, and in training camp so far this week, I've heard a lot of great things. He actually got the first interception of training camp, and he's been making plays since then. Another player that has been getting a lot of love, especially in the secondary, is none other than our 4th round pick in this year's draft, Jacorian Bennett. According to Sean Reed, he said that Jacorian Bennett's been hooping all camp, just had a nice pass breakup matchup with Davante Adams in 11-on-11, and that's definitely a huge task. Davante Adams is going to make all these cornerbacks much better, because when you go up against an elite wide receiver like him, you can only get better. And for a rookie to do that and to ball out on top of that throughout camp, you know, it just shows that he's trending in the right direction. But with all of that said, Raider Nation, what do you guys think about everything that's been going on in training camp? Do you believe our defense is actually better than they were last year? Do you think that they could crack the top 15? And are you worried about this offense? Are you worried about Jimmy G? I mean, I know many of you guys are. I don't know whether I want to hit the panic button right now, but if he continues to do this all the way up into, you know, regular season, then, you know, we're going to have to question a lot of things out there. But until then, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. With that being said, Raider Nation, until the next video, I hope you guys have a great Saturday. This is your boy, Samoan Raider, and your boys. Yeah.